Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. This week I bought 4 new recorders. Let me hold them up because I bought every color that they had. This is the yellow one. This is the rose colored, kind of pink, but more or less rose, dusty rose. This is the orange one. Whoops. And I have a blue one. 4 of them. I'll hold them all up together. I bought all the colors that they had. They were not expensive, but they're all recorders. And so then I brought them home because I'm not allowed to play them in the store. And lo and behold, most of them don't work. However, they do play a little. One doesn't work at all. Now, I had a purpose for doing this because I do sometimes get on a soapbox in terms of why don't they make instruments to play if they're made for children? A toy instrument should play. Would you buy a train set for your children if the train wouldn't move? What would be the sense of that? There wouldn't be any sense of all. So let me take a look at this and see how these were put together. So I didn't expect them to do too well, but I did expect them to do better than they do. Here's the rose one. It looks perfectly like a recorder. Now, you can't take it apart. I mean, it looks like you could. It's designed like a regular recorder, but it doesn't work near as well, and you can't pull it apart. It's just designed that way. And so I'm going to play a little bit on it. That's probably plays the best of any of the ones that I've got. It's not in pitch, but it does play, so that's a beginning, and that's not too bad. You would never use it for anything. Here is the blue one, and the blue one has a yellow marking on it because it got rubbed up against the paint of another instrument. I don't think I did it. I think it came like that. So you can see this carelessness here. I'll show you some other carelessness. That's what you get. If you look on the back of this, I hope it shows up. There's a little hump on the block. They do have a block, and there's a little hump. If you see it at all, you're going to see it like a little line. And you're also going to see this block. It's a part of the mouthpiece, but you're going to see on one side of it, this side, where there's kind of an opening. It doesn't close quite tight on the mouthpiece. Now, that's a problem to begin with. It has to be a block. It has to be so set in there that it's perfectly aligned and there's no space. And this, of course, it is a space, but it does play a little. Let me see if the rose one has the same thing. Well, I can see in the rose one, it would be on this side where the block doesn't line up. Now, why don't they do it right? You know, there's no reason why they shouldn't do it right. If it's just to make money, then that's not a great idea. Now, here's the orange one, and it's probably better put together than the others, but let me try it. It'll play a whole scale. Now, not all the tones are in pitch, but it probably plays the best of any of them. It's not hard to play. It also looks the best. It also looks like it's been put together. There's a little separation of the block on it, but not much. It's kind of hard to see. And there's a little bump. I don't know where this bump comes from, but it's on all of them. I think what they did was they made it in parts and they simply glued it together. And they didn't glue it very well. Now, the yellow one is the worst. I'm going to play it, but I don't think I'm going to get hardly anything out of it. And I'm going to show you that when they glued it together, they didn't even glue it right. So let me try it. I don't think it's going to work. See, you may as well not play it at all. If you look at this side, the two halves have not been glued together right. And if you look carefully, you might be able to see a line, especially right here. And then as you go, let me see, As you go down, you'll see there's a line on the bottom of it too. When they glued it together, they didn't glue it together right. I'll put it like this. I hope this is good for you to see. Maybe a close-up will show it. We'll just hold it there for a second while they get the picture in place. And can you see it? You can see the line. It's hard to see, but there's a line where they didn't glue it together right, and there's a slight opening. And when you get to the bottom of the instrument, that line continues. Let me take a look here because I want to point out right here. That line continues down, and there's a whole place where a whole section of the instrument, you can see a line where it's not even glued together. It's like it got unstuck somehow. I don't know how well you can see that. Can you?
It's barely.
Yeah, it's barely visible, but trust me, it's there. And I'm going to see what... It's most noticeable to me right here on this foot joint. I know I'm not holding it straight. You got it?
No, I think we can see that.
Okay. What happened was they glued it and the glue didn't stick, or they didn't get the glue in the right position. And if you look at the block, you've got the same problem. It doesn't set in right. So there's a space there. I can see the space on the monitor from here. It's on this side. Oops, sorry, this side. Everything looks reversed on television. I got to remember that. Very, very poor thing. And you can see that hump in the middle of the block, too. That's fairly easy to see. So I got 4 recorders. 1 or 2 of them play some. This doesn't play at all, and all you have to do is look at it, because you can't see this in a package when you buy it because it's all packaged up. But I can see all of the frailties that it has. Now, why would I bring these in? When you buy an instrument for somebody or for a child, you need to know that it's going to work. If you could see the defects, you would know that it's not going to work. And as I said, there's no excuse to make an instrument for a child that doesn't play. And I see it all the time. And they expect to be able to play songs with it, and they should be able to do that, but they can't because the instrument doesn't work. Now, it's nice looking, it's yellow and all of that, and people expect that if you buy a toy instrument, it's not going to work, and I think that's ridiculous. It should. Because as I said before, you wouldn't buy a toy for a child if you knew that the toy wasn't going to work. When I was about 15 months old, I'm a twin, and my mother knew that my father loved toy trains. So my father told my mother that he knew what we wanted for our birthdays or for Christmas, wherever it was. I think it was for Christmas. And we were about 15 months. A 15-month is a walking baby. They're a toddler, but they're not talking, and they're just barely walking. He knew that what we really wanted for Christmas was a train set. And my mother said, yeah, a train set? They're 15 months old. They're barely walking. Well, they really want a train set. So he bought us a train set for Christmas, which was a very nice one, which he played with for months and months and months because we weren't interested. That's not age appropriate for a 15-month-old. But it worked, and it worked beautifully. And he had it for years, and I got to love it too. Everybody did, and it was electric, and it had a transformer, and it would go in different directions. It was really a very nice one. It would have smoke that came out of the engine just like a regular one would and everything. But I just get disgusted when you go to a toy store and you buy an instrument and the instrument doesn't work. You know, if you want your children to want to learn how to play, if you want them to become interested in music, if you're going to get them a toy so they'll get interested in music, buy one that works. But you don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work when you look at the packaging, so it's kind of a guess. But I just wanted to demonstrate that to you. Now, I'm going to play a song that I wrote, and you'll see it here. And it's in different time signatures, and I'll explain why I did it. It's in different time signatures because what I want to show you is if it's in different time signatures, it still can be the same song. In other words, you can write music in different kinds of ways and still come out with the same song. It can be arranged in different times. It can be arranged in different keys. So I'm going to play this for you. It's not a really a very hard song. I didn't want it to be. But it is a song. It's actually a part of a song because I wrote the whole song, and this is just the first 2 lines of it. But I want to show you what you can do with it when you want to write it in different time signatures. And then we're going to go on from there, and we're going to talk about reading music and the symbols that you have in music that you need to read, that you need to learn to read. Because the phrase that is used is reading music. And you will hear people say, well, I can read this. Or somebody will ask somebody else, do you read music? And of course, it actually is a language of its own, but I'm going to demonstrate that to you today. So let's go ahead. I'm playing this song. This line, these 2 lines up here, the 3/4 time, in other words, 3 beats to a measure in the key of G because it has 1 sharp. So there's your time signature and there's your key signature, and you can tell that it's 3/4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 3 beats to a measure. So let me play this. There are sections to it, other sections to it, but this is the beginning of it. So I played it in 3/4 time. Now I'm going to change the time signature and play it in 4/4 time, which means that there's going to be 4 beats to a measure, the same key signature, the same key of G with the F sharp in it, but it's going to be in 4/4 time rather than 3/4 time. So see how it sounds. Just try to remember. It's exactly the same. So how did I make it 3/4 time and then make it 4/4 time and make it work? Well, I'll show you right here. I took 3 notes and made triplets of them. 3 notes in a triplet means you get 3 notes to 1 beat. And then I did the dotted 8th and 16th. That's 1 beat. Then the triplets again, 1 beat. And then the dotted 8th and 16th, 1 beat. So you get 4 beats to that measure. 2 of the beats are triplets, 3 notes to a beat, and the other 2 are both dotted 8ths and 16ths. Each one is a beat. 1, 2, 3, 4 beats. I did the same thing up here, but in 3/4 time. Every note has a beat of its own, and then when you get to the longer note, it's not a dotted 8th and 16th. I made it a half note and a quarter note. These are not triplets. They're each one a beat, a quarter note. The same thing, you have a half note and a quarter note following it. And that's the way, when you get it written, it's the same thing, but instead of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, you get 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. But 3 notes to a beat, 3 notes to a beat. 1 beat for the dotted 8 16th, 1 beat for the dotted 8 16th. So I write the same song, but I arrange it in a different way. Now I'm going to do it in 3/4 time, and it's going to sound more like a waltz. The notes are going to be the same, but I'm going to change the way that the notes are played a little, and it's going to sound more like a waltz, because even though this is 3/4 time, it doesn't sound like 3/4 time. It doesn't sound waltz-like. So I'm going to do this, and it's going to be waltz-like when you listen to it. has more of that lilting waltz type. Now, I could do it faster, but it wouldn't make any difference. I just want to show you that the notes are the same. Now, I'm going to do it in 6/8 time, 6/8 notes to a beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The eighth notes each are a beat because this is 6/8 time. So the main note is an eighth note. So the eighth notes are each one beat. 1, 2, 3. That means a quarter note is 2 beats because it's twice as long as the eighth. So instead of 1 beat, it's going to be 2 beats, and we go back to 1 beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, a lot of waltzes are written in 6/8 time, so they sound like they're in 3/4. It has that same lilting type. So let me play it. We're doing 6/8 time. This is a part of a song. I've played it in 4 different ways, in 4 different time signatures. The key signature is the same, but there are 4 different time signatures. And it comes out that the music is almost exactly the same. The only one that's noticeably different is the one that I did in 3/4 waltz time. I just changed the amount of beats to each one. This is 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. So that the value of the first note is a little bit different to give it more of a waltz kind of feeling, but other than that, they're exactly the same. Now the song continues. I haven't written it down here, and I'm not sure if I can play it by ear or not because I didn't bring that music with me. So that's the whole song. When I played the middle part, which isn't written down here, and then you go back to what I played before and I did write down, that middle section is sometimes called a bridge. In other words, most songs have 3 parts to it. Not all of them by any means, but most have 3. You have that first part, then you have the middle part, which is different, but it kind of blends in, but it's not the same notes, but it does blend in. And then you go back and you do something that's called a reprieve. When you do the reprieve, you play the first part over again. It's repeated as a third part of the song. So you have your first part of the song, then you have your bridge, then you go back and do a reprieve, which is like the first part of the song again. And it's a complete package. It sounds better because there's something different and it's attached to it in the middle, and then you go back to the beginning. And so that's the way a lot of songs are written. And so sometime I'm just going to take a time and just show you little things about composition. Now I do compose, but I compose basically for students, but this is the way I would do it. Okay, now, I only have 5 minutes left. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to close it here, and I'm going to go into reading music and the signs of music, and I'll probably show you another instrument that I brought in, and then go to reading music and what it's like and how you do it. And so I'll do that next segment. So please join me then.